Hey YouTube, Connecticut Gunner here. I'm going to do a video on the XDS series of pistols by Springfield Armory. Both the 9mm and the 45 ACP seem to have the same issue with the mag release. This is my 45, and I have already fixed the problem with mine, but I'm doing this video basically for another 1more7 is what he calls himself, and he left a comment on Crank Pants Painter video that I made a comment on. The issue that was going on with the pistol was very difficult to release the mag after your last shot. As you can see, there's no magazine in this gun. The mag well is empty. Nothing in the chamber. Okay. So now the gun is ready to fire, as if I just put a round in the chamber. Now, what was happening before is when you fired your last shot, okay, the trigger is all the way back. Now, a lot of guys were saying on some of the forums and in other videos that Crank Pants Painter needed to do finger push-ups to strengthen his fingers because it just needed to be broke in, and that's just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. The issue was when the trigger was in its rearward-most position, you went to push the mag release. It was very, very hard to push with your thumb or your pointer or middle finger on the other side. I mean, it would work, but it was very hard. And also what it would do, and I'll try and simulate it here, is watch the grip safety and the trigger. When the mag safety was pushed, remember I said I fixed mine, so I can't show you exactly with the mag release, but what it did was, if you watch the trigger and the grip safety, see how they both move forward? I'll do it again. Did you see that? Well, before I made the fix, when you pushed the mag release, that's what it did. It pushed everything in the carriage forward. The trigger bar, and the grip safety all moved forward. Just like that. And then, once that was forward, the mag release would work fine. It would work freely. So, I couldn't understand why I was doing that. And I experienced this myself when I was at the range. I go to drop the mag, it was like really hard. And in a defensive situation, a high-stress situation, you don't need to have to do that if you need to drop a mag and reload. So, I took the gun apart, which I'm going to do here, and I'm going to show you what I did to fix it. I had called Springfield Armory and talked to them for almost an hour, and they could not give me a good answer as to why it's doing that other than it's normal, and to send the gun back and they would take a look at it. Well, I didn't want to do that, so I'm going to show you what I did. Okay, first thing we're going to do is lock the slide back. Put the lever up, release the slide, pull the trigger, take the slide off. Put that to the side. Now, excuse me. You got to take the pistol apart to do this fix, so I'm going to do that right here on film. Hopefully I won't mess it up. You're going to need a couple things. You're going to need a 1/16 of an inch punch. You're going to need a roll pin punch. Well, I'm going to need this for a pointer to show you, and a little screwdriver with a groove cut in it, if you can see that. Can you see that groove in there? That's what you need to have for this to make it easier. Okay, so I'm going to tap out the pins here, and they come out pretty easy. I don't have an armorer's block, but I use a roll of packing tape, which is pretty stiff, works good. Then I'm going to rotate the takedown pin and just keep rotating it, and it will come out as such. Now I'm going to pull the locking block up, comes right up, set it on the side. Make sure you pay attention to the way that spring is, because it just sets in there. I'm going to take the magazine, disconnect arm out, the slide release arm. Okay. Then take your roll pin punch and knock out the rear pin. Okay, with that out, the sear housing and the trigger and everything is going to slide right out. Oh, there it goes. Okay. And that's how that comes out. I didn't want it to do it like that, but no, I'll have to show you how to fix that after. But okay. Now what you have in the pistol is, and I hope you can see this, is that little silver piece in there. I'll move it with the mag release button. I hope you can see that. Okay. That's what I'm going to be taking out. So you take your 16th inch punch and drive that pin out almost all the way. Have to go a little further. Oop. Now this is the spring. This is the spring from the mag release. This pin, sometimes it's a little stubborn. Just give it a pull and it'll come right out. You turn it over and the mag release falls out. Now, this is the magazine side of the mag release. If you were looking down on the mag well, this is what you're going. This is the way you're going to be looking at it. This is what you're going to see. These nubs here will grab the magazine when it's in to lock it in. Okay. On the opposite side, the trigger side, there was two little nubs here, one on this side, one on this side, and that was, to me, they look like casting marks where they should have been ground off. But I don't know if this piece is cast or whether it's machined. But those nubs are what was pushing on the trigger assembly and forcing everything forward, in turn making it very hard to push the button to release the mag. So what I did is took my Dremel and the small grinding wheel, and I just very gently ground off those two little nubs. And took a flat file and just smoothed it off. Can you see that? Wasn't very much. It's just, you know, just enough to push against that trigger. And that was it. Okay, so now we're going to reassemble the pistol. Alright, the first thing you want to do, and here's the, by the way, the button. Tapered end goes, the machined end goes towards the magazine. You just slide that in, kind of center it. And put the pin back in just enough so you can see it pop through the frame. I just push it, it's not really that difficult. I just push it against my bench to get it in there. Okay? Then you're going to stick the magazine safety or the magazine catch in, and the part that you ground off towards the trigger. You're going to set it down in there, pretty much in the position where it goes. Then you're going to take your 1/16 inch punch and stick it through the other side of the frame, and try and capture that. I look through the hole to find the hole on the magazine catch itself. And excuse me. Put the excuse me again. Push the 1/8 inch punch in to catch the magazine release. Magazine catch. You see it in there? Moving around. Okay. Now that you have that in there, you take the spring. If you notice on this spring, there's a longer end and a shorter end. Okay? It's not by much, so you have to pay attention. I got clumsy hands too, so. The larger end goes in towards the front of the pistol. So what you do is you take a pair of needle nose pliers, grab the short end, you stick it down in the pistol into that oval opening in the magazine catch. Stick your punch back through. I took it out too far. Let me get that resituated here. Okay. Now, like I said, you take the spring, needle nose pliers, stick it down through there, pull your punch back just enough, and then push it back through to catch the spring. Alright, can you see that in there? The spring is back in there, it's being held in with my punch. Okay? Now what I do is I just push it against my bench, push the pin, and let it push the punch right back out. And then just tap the pin the rest of the way in. Okay, now the spring and everything is just flopping around in there. Okay? No tension on it. Now this is where this little fork screwdriver comes in. You want to reach inside, grab the end of the spring. See if I can do it and get it on camera here. Can you see that? You just grab that spring, and then you just slide it over and push in through that opening. Didn't go in far enough. Sure, now because I'm trying to do a video on it, it's going to be stubborn. The way it always is. Okay. It's in there. Can you see I'm pushing the buttons now from both directions, and the mag release is moving? Okay. Now, because I wasn't extra careful before, the grip safety, this is the one that's been post recall, so the grip safety is different than the first one. So what you want to do is you pull your trigger bar assembly forward. Okay. And you lock it in place there. Now this spring and this pin, they fall out pretty easy, so if you're holding the sear housing in your left hand, you want to take this spring. You can see how it's shaped. This part of the spring goes in this way. So you stick it in there like that, and there's no tension on it yet. And then you, like I said, this pin drops out pretty easy. So you put it in the upper hole and manipulate the spring until that, keep your finger on the bottom so it doesn't fall out again. Then your spring is in, and you can see that there's tension on it. Right here, okay? So with your trigger bar pulled forward, this little lever has to ride on top of that spring shaft, that pin. So get it lined up, and then hold your index finger on, well, don't touch it until you get the spring back, but push the spring up, and then keep pressure on the trigger, or the grip safety rather. And what you want it to do is, if you can see it right here, you can see it moving, this little bar between the spring and the bottom of the sear. You see it moving in there? That's the way you want it to be. Okay? So keep your finger on the grip safety once you have that. Okay? You take it and you drop the trigger in first. And what I do is I keep the pressure on the grip safety by sticking it through the hole until it gets down through. Then I put my finger on it again to hold it in place. And the sear block just drops right in. Okay? Then you replace the roll pin. Using your roll pin punch, drive it in just flush with the frame. Okay? Grip safety spring is there. Okay? Now, leave the trigger bar up just a little, make the next step easier. You take your little magazine disconnect bar, and that slides in the right side of the frame and just drops in. Next, you take your slide disconnect arm, and that just drops in on the opposite side. Now all these three pieces have holes in it, and they're going to go, say, like that. That's how they line up. This one is slotted. That's what keeps your takedown pin from rotating when the magazine is still in there. Now you take your locking block, trigger block, whatever you want to call it, and drop this in. It snaps right down in there. Okay. Now you take your pin, and that one's not too hard to put back in because it's got the detents that lock up on the spring on the opposite side. This one's a little, you got to play with this a little. I use an 1/8 inch punch, stick it through the opposite hole and line up everything. Makes it a lot easier. Then the only thing you're fighting is the spring itself. And there it goes. Okay. We put the takedown pin in, just rotate it the opposite way when you took it out, and there's just one spot where it'll catch and it'll fall in place. All right. Put your slide back on. Sometimes that pin right there, you have to, it gets caught on the frame, you have to just snap it so it fits in the little slot. Put the slide back, put your pin down, release it. Okay. Trigger will not move without the grip safety pressed. You press the grip safety in, the gun will fire. You pull the trigger on both sides without touching the trigger safety, gun will not fire. Push the grip safety in, pull the trigger back, gun will not fire. Pull the trigger safety in, gun will fire. All right. Now, I just dry fired a pistol. The trigger is all the way back, the way it would be if you fired your last round. Magazine is in. Okay, empty magazine. Now watch this. See how that mag just shot right out of there? It's like beautiful. Either hand now, you can push that mag release and it comes right out. It does not move the trigger anymore or the grip safety. Show you again. Mag in, hit the button with my right hand, comes right out. Now I'm going to put a loaded mag in. I'm not going to load the chamber, but I'm going to put a loaded mag in. Same thing. Knocks it right out. Not quite as fast because it's loaded, but knocks it right out. I took this weapon to the range today, put 250 rounds through it. No misfires, no jams, nothing. It ran flawlessly. I was kind of thinking when I ground down that trigger side of the mag release that the recoil might force it forward and cause the mag to drop, but that wasn't the case. I purposely held my hand away from the bottom of the mag and cupped it like this, so if it did do that, I had it cupped like this. The mag did not come out at all, 250 rounds. So, for you guys that have these pistols that know the problem I'm talking about, that's how you fix it. And believe me, it's like night and day from what it was. It just comes flying out of there. So, if you have any comments or whatever, you can leave them below. Thanks for watching. I hope you learned something. And maybe you might want to do this to your own. I know Crank Pants Painter said he sold his because he didn't trust it when it was doing what it was doing. And I don't blame him. I wouldn't have trusted it either in a high-stress situation the way it was. But now I feel perfectly confident that this gun is going to protect my life and I'll carry it every day with me. I love the gun. And I'm not telling you to do this. If you do it, it's totally up to you. But I did it, and I'm definitely not a gunsmith, but it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward, and I think you'll be happy with the results. Till next time, Connecticut Gunner out.